it's easy to look like there's the Japanese concept of kintsugi that I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah, I do. I talk about it a lot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's broken pot, break the pot, and then you put the pot back together and you use this like golden plaster stuff so it actually expresses the cracks, and the cracks are like a part of the gift and the art. I think that within culture, you can see someone, maybe like the homelessness epidemic, if you call it that, would be an example of that. There's a lot of people that if they had a broken leg, you would very easily be able to see, oh, wow, bro, your femur is at 90 degrees. Like you really need, like you're fractured. And where in our quantitative world that we live in, we totally get that. Our objective reductionist world, like, wow, broken leg, we got to sort that out. But once we enter kind of the invisible and it gets more into like the expression of how the person shows up in their mind and their heart and their relationships and their connections, it's like, well, could that person actually be fractured within the mind? And so I wonder from your perception, how, this is kind of too big of a question, but I wonder how you'd approach it. How would a person who, has a broken or fractured mind, what would be the beginning steps to start to kintsugi themselves back into holism?
So first, I'm so glad that you know about the kintsugi principle. I actually put in my newest book that I know we're going to mention at some point, but how to help a child clean up their mental mess. I've got a whole kintsugi exercise that you can do with your kids.
Oh, cool.
In my neurocycle app. There's a whole day I've dedicated over the 63 days, etc. So I love that principle. And if we look at just where do we start? We start at the beginning, which is brain preparation. We then have to go beyond brain preparation and do the work. So I liken the steps to flying a plane. So if you think about the preparation that has to be done, and the reason I'm talking about this because my husband's getting his private pilot's license, and he just flew past our balcony this morning, but he was talking about all the levels of whatever, so it's very fresh in my mind. But it's a great example. Where do we start? When we have, as a human, we have experiences on a scale of 1 to 10 at any one time in time frame, like right now in your life, right now in my life. We'll have a variety of, on the scale of 1 to 1, 2, 3 being like just minor irritations, with 8, 9, and 10 being the big stuff. Now, hopefully we don't have too much of the big stuff, but we all have some level of messiness in our life. And more or less every 3 to 5 years, something big will happen in our lives that can affect our functioning. But there's some people that live in that 8, 9, 10 zone where they've had continual abuse, or they live in a war-torn country, or they're being abused in a relationship over a long period, etc. And then in the middle, things sort of, we have a kind of, most people have a lot of the 1, 2s, and 3s, which is kind of the normal daily struggles. And then we have a little bit more of the ones in the middle. And then we have the least of the ones at the edge in terms of if you just take the general population. So we are all somewhere in that scale, a combination. So we're working on little things. We're working on things that come up and throw us off. We're working on the sort of stuff that's not so, that's problematic and could become really a big issue. And then we've got patterns, established patterns that are coming from various traumas and so on, from whatever age or stage of our life. And so to start is to recognize, to train ourselves, to stand back and observe ourselves. So a big part of the work that I've done is helping people to do that. And in order to do that, this is where brain preparation is very useful. Brain preparation, you did some of that at the beginning of this podcast, which was really great. You've obviously interviewed Wim Hof as well, with all the Wim Hof breathing, and the breathing you did was fantastic. I do a lot of the stuff, and thank you for doing that. But that's an example of brain preparation, because our neurophysiology would have calmed down. We got in alignment, we did preparation, etc. So brain preparation incorporates something like we did. It incorporates something like maybe going on for longer, meditation, mindfulness. There's a host of brilliant people out there that are teaching these concepts. I've also put them in my books, in my app. I've got given ones for kids. And so my point being is that we need to do that stuff. It prepares our brain, and by that I mean it calms down our neurophysiology, gets our mind-brain-body network connected, and I just keep using the word in alignment because I associate you with that word, psychoneurobiology, prepared for the work of concentrating. So the equivalent of flying would be that the engineer's got to go through everything with you. You've got to checklist with a co-pilot. There's a lot of stuff at the tower, at the airport. You don't just get in a plane and like your car and just drive off. There's a tremendous amount of preparation that goes into that. And then you're ready for takeoff. And then you take off, and then you fly, and then you land. And the flying is over a period of time. And then you land, and then the next. And so it's in these cycles. So helping ourselves works in cycles. So what I've done over the past 38 years in the research I've done and the systems I've developed is I developed a basic theory, which I then applied into a system that incorporates all these elements that we're talking about that will help you prepare your brain, help your brain, your mind, brain, body network, take off, fly, and land. If we just meditate or just breathe and don't do anything else afterwards, or just do mindfulness, what the research is showing, as well as experience from people that just talk about this, which is very important to listen to people, is that you'll get worse because stuff comes up. If you don't know what to do with what's come up, the plane will crash. If a pilot only knows how to take off, but doesn't know how to fly and land the plane will crash. Simple analogy.